Chapter 4, Did you know? Why did the main characters of a novel's story have such an inhuman talent?
Just as Mother Ye was about to drag her brand new perfect son out to show him off to the world, Father Ye, who had just finished his breakfast, stepped in to stop his wife and pulled Ye Shuang into the office to continue their previous conversation. Xiao Shuang, you said that the jade sculpture carried a residual memory, so can you tell me exactly what happened to you? Flipping through a thick encyclopedia, Father Ye began to search for the definition that could explain what had actually happened to his daughter. Father Ye was not an avid reader of online novels, so he was not aware of the common reactions of those main characters with a system or a sudden upgrade. However, even if Father Ye had known, he would most likely have ignored it. Main characters who have experienced such a miraculous event hide it from their families and the public for fear of being dragged to the lab to be tested like lab rats. However, eventually the truth is revealed, and with their inhuman talent, they begin an endless journey of cringe and harem collecting. However, the authors of these stories must have a problem somewhere. Why didn't any of the main characters worry that their bodies would collapse due to cellular rearrangement, or that the random system was not a perfect assistant but a schemer who meant them harm? The host in such novels would be completely under the control of a higher existence. So how could these main characters believe that such a wonderful improvement would not have a fatal drawback? Why did the authors create such main characters who could not see beyond themselves to realize the possible dangerous consequences? Father Ye was practically a blank sheet when it came to this kind of knowledge. He had not been washed by online novels to think that only good things would come to Ye Shuang from this encounter. The way he saw it, whether it was a good thing or a bad thing, they had to identify the origin and degree of this change first. They couldn't leave everything to fate now, could they? The main changes concerned the optimization of the physical body and the brain. However, as for the degree of change, I'm not very sure myself, because the memory didn't contain any information about it. Ye Shuang understood that this was her father's way of expressing his concern and love, so she treated it seriously. There are no superpowers. The optimization process is hindered by the limitations of the body. Temporarily, there is no observable side effect. Father Ye sighed with relief. It's good that there are no side effects, but you better get used to your new body as soon as possible. You can't go and break all the chopsticks in the house just because of carelessness. Fortunately, this time, it was only a pair of chopsticks, but if Ye Shuang got too excited shaking hands with another person, Father Ye didn't dare to imagine the consequences. Ye Shuang felt like crying. It wasn't that she wanted to break the chopsticks, it was because of her annoying little brother. How about a little test? Father Ye thought about it and decided to start with a brain power survey. He passed the encyclopedia to Ye Shuang. Let's see how good your memory and logical abilities are. Memory. Ye Shuang used only 10 minutes to memorize 10 pages of the encyclopedia. Father Ye picked up the book with a drawn face. Enough, I understand. Father Ye, who was rarely jealous of his children, tried to calm his emotions. Wait here, I'll go get some math homework from the university. That would be the logic test. Dad, please don't do this. Ye Shuang pleaded with tears in his eyes. Please give me IQ tests instead. I feel like the brain is pretty much alive right now, but most of the math formulas she had learned had been returned to her teachers fully packed. Father Ye, who was well aware of his daughter's math skills, remained silent for a while. Then let's forget about it and test your physical strength. At Father Ye's order, the hardwood table in the office had a deep palm print embedded in it, the glass of the burglar-proof window had one of the iron bars bent, even their guest room had a new hole in the wall. The Ye family of 3 stood silently next to the hole in the wall and looked at the handsome man who laughed awkwardly as he pulled a cabinet weighing several hundred kilograms to block the hole from view. Oh, Ye. Mother Ye clutched her chest and hissed, maybe we should take Shuang to the gym. Father Ye seemed to have aged 10 years as he weakly waved his hands. Go ahead then, let me think about it. Little brother Ye, who had been a spectator all along, felt like rushing online to see if there was another unlucky boy in the world who had to live with a super scion sister with a horrible character. Thinking of the many times he had pissed off his sister to the point of explosion and the image of his sister's bare hand punching a hole in the wall, little brother Ye suddenly felt that his future was shrouded in darkness. Before Mother Ye left with Ye Shuang, Father Ye, who had just recovered, lightly reminded him, "Xiao Shuang, try not to use your strength too much before you get used to it. Be careful with everything." The new Ye Shuang was definitely the tallest in the family. It was hard to tell how tall she was as a woman, that would have to wait for 3 more days, but as a man, she definitely stood out. 184 centimeters with a perfect ratio, broad shoulders and a slim waist. Combined with the perfect facial features, it was like a walking movie poster. On the first day of the transformation, Ye Shuang wore a skirt. At that time, everyone was still too shocked by the transformation to notice this incongruity. Besides, she looked like she was posing for an alternative magazine. However, the problem arose when Ye Shuang needed to leave home. Father Ye and little brother Ye were both a head shorter than their longest pants on Ye Shuang instantly became short jeans. They didn't even need to test the shirts. Their small shoulders meant that their shirts could not fit on Ye Shuang. By putting on the extra-large t-shirt she used as pajamas and little brother Ye's stretchy gym pants, the clothing problem was temporarily solved. However, it was only temporary. Ye Shuang had to buy a new set of clothes, including underwear. She couldn't walk around with strawberry print panties under a suit or jeans, could she? Therefore, this shopping trip became even more necessary than before. Even though Ye Shuang tried her best to keep a low profile, the sparkle of a diamond could not be suppressed. Mother Ye and Ye Shuang had just stepped out when they were accosted by their neighbor. "Such a handsome young man. Sister Luo, is he related to you?" Mother Ye's maiden name was Luo. The neighboring aunt's eyes were practically popping out of her sockets. It was rare to come across a young man of such quality. She was going to get all the information about him before she let them go. "Young man, what is your name?" After realizing that it was her mother's friend, Ye Shuang, in a moment of weakness, blurted out, "My name is Ye Shuang." When Ye Shuang realized what was wrong, Mother Ye and the aunt were stunned. The aunt said hesitantly, "The same name as your daughter." Mother Ye laughed awkwardly. Fortunately, it didn't cross the aunt's mind that the two Ye Shuang were one and the same person. However, using her own imagination, she filled in the blanks and arrived at her own speculation. A speculation that was confirmed when she noticed the familiar t-shirt Ye Shuang was wearing. The aunt's eyes flashed with a conspiratorial gleam. "Sister Luo, is this your new son-in-law?" Reality tells us to never underestimate the observation of a neighborhood aunt. These creatures of a mysterious nature normally gather in a creepy place called the neighborhood committee, and each one contains unimaginable information as they observe the entire neighborhood from their perch. The types of food served on each dinner table, the exam results of each family's children, the relationship status of young men and women. No information can escape them. These ladies are natural spies and information gatherers. Ye Shuang had only worn this shirt, at most, 3 times in public, but it still could not escape the aunt's eyes. Therefore, the connection was made instantly. After Mother Ye and her son-in-law left the building, the news quickly spread in the community. "Did you know? There was a very handsome young man who visited the Ye family, and he was wearing Xiao Shuang's clothes. Did you know? The Ye family just welcomed their new son-in-law. Did you know? Xiao Shuang from the Ye family is already pregnant." So while Ye Shuang was dragged to the mall to shop, without her knowing, she had a relationship, got married, and is even carrying an illegitimate child.
Chapter 5, Mother Goose, why do you need a new ID card?
Before we get you some clothes, we'll see which place can help you get fake IDs and certificates. Mother Ye had her hand on Ye Shuang's arm with pride, but the first words out of her mouth had completely shocked Ye Shuang. Ah! Ye Shuang couldn't believe his ears. Don't tell me you don't know about this. Mother Ye was also shocked. Weren't there a number of such establishments around your university? In fact, I remember seeing them selling fake graduation certificates. Ye Shuang tilted his head back to look at his mother. No, the question is, why do we need them? My silly son. Mother Ye seemed to have adjusted to her new role quite easily. It seemed like she had accepted the fact that she had given birth to two. Have you forgotten how different you look now? In fact, you might even need to remake your original identity. What if you're also much prettier as a woman? From the moment they were born, from the birth certificate to the university exam, all the IDs and certificates had been handled by Mother Ye. To be able to send both children to university without a single worry from Father Ye was a great testimony to Mother Ye's success. The skills required to be a good stay-at-home mom should not be underestimated. Once her children reached the appropriate age, she had to help them choose their school, handle the many forms, liaise with the parents and teachers of other students, in addition to taking care of the family. Did women like being the good old ball and chain? No, it was because no one else in the family was willing to take over. The father of the family normally had a clearer view of the big picture, but when it came to the little details and the day-to-day wisdom, a woman's touch was really needed. This was highlighted by the fact that after Ye Shuang's dramatic transformation, Father Ye's biggest concern was his career, but Mother Ye was worried about his ability to integrate into society with his new identities. Reality had proven that a skilled housewife was not only careful when dealing with formal routines, but if she wanted to, she could also be perfect when dealing with a legal certification. My son's ID must be usable with traceable records. Let me tell you, my phone is connected to the internet. I will use the ID card to buy a plane ticket on the spot. If it doesn't pass, then the case is over. Mother Ye used her immense presence, honed by years of haggling at the morning market, to keep control of the situation. She went through her requests carefully, while asking for discounts. Give me a graduation certificate too. I want the 211 type. Don't lie to me because I know how to check authenticity online. By the way, I heard that you also handle passports. Wait, what about driver's licenses? Son, I bought so many things from you, shouldn't you give me a good discount? Ye Shuang stood on the side awkwardly. Other than holding Mother Ye, she couldn't find any opening to intervene. The men holding the place were almost in tears. They were almost driven crazy by Mother Ye. They had served many customers before, but this was the first time they had crossed swords with a middle-aged professional housewife. Her business skill had reached the maximum score of 100, and her persuasion skill was also at an expert level. She dominated the business even though it was Mother Ye's first time to visit this place. After a few trips back and forth, a lanky man, who seemed to be the owner, came out. He avoided Mother Ye to look at Ye Shuang. Need a new ID card. Otherwise, why do you think I'm here? Ye Shuang retorted. Mother Ye wanted to intervene, but Ye Shuang silently tugged on her sleeve. Ye Shuang still remembered that he shouldn't be too cavalier with his strength. After looking at her, Mother Ye thought that such a situation required a discussion between men, so she stepped back. The big guy continued, what I meant was, you're not here because you're running from the police, are you? Ye Shuang didn't have the imagination of the lanky guy, but she was indeed annoyed by his insinuation. Brother, if I was really running away from the police, shouldn't I have gone to a plastic surgeon? Why would I come here? Don't be too suspicious, anyway, we won't bring you any trouble. We are not afraid of any trouble. After all, we are moving in less than a week. Even if something happens to you, it won't be traced back to us, the big guy said with a shrug. Then he took out a digital camera and threw it to one of his lackeys. He pointed to the door at the back of the room and said, go inside and take a picture. The new ID card will be ready in about a week. Also, no discounts. Mother Ye couldn't help but intervene, but she was tugged at her sleeve again. Sure, as long as the ID card is usable. Ye Shuang had to count herself lucky, because even though there were many such places, the one they had gone to was the most professional. What she needed then was to solve the identity problem. Money was not a problem. It was not a walk to the night market, looking for a cheap lettuce. Such a service might not be available after the street. The mother-daughter pair left the store after taking care of everything and exchanging phone numbers. Mother Ye grumbled, "There are several tens of thousands of dollars lost. Let's go see if we can get similar service elsewhere with only a few $100s. Mom, the quality won't be the same." Ye Shuang didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She patiently explained, "They promised that I could even use the ID card to apply for a passport and marriage certificate. With quality like that, the price is acceptable." No matter how insightful Mother Ye was, she was from the previous generation. There were many things she did not understand. Ye Shuang, even if she hadn't experienced this before, with the help of Mr. Google, all kinds of information was at hand. With a few more words of persuasion from her, Mother Ye sighed reluctantly. Then, they raised their heads and headed towards the mall. There are two kinds of children in the world, yours and other families. Like a mother goose, Mother Ye was proud of her own children and gave them all her attention. Unfortunately, none of them grew up to be above average. In comparison, other people's children became the most beautiful or the smartest in school. In any case, there were those 1 or 2 points that shone brighter than her own children. Mother Ye knew that she was part of the general public, so she didn't expect her children to be exceptionally smart or beautiful. Of course, this did not mean that she despised her own children. However, if one day her own child became a Greek god, she wasn't going to skimp on the feeling of being a proud mother. By simply holding Ye Shuang's arm, they managed to hold the gaze of everyone in the mall. It was a feeling she had never experienced before in her life. With the improvement in her mood, Mother Ye became incredibly talkative. Before they arrived at the mall, she was thinking about their budget, but now it flew out the window. "Shuang Shuang, choose anything you want." "Of course, my beautiful son needs clothes to accentuate his beauty." In that moment, Ye Shuang felt like she had lived 24 years as an adopted child. As she was dragged into a store, with just a glance at Ye Shuang's face, the saleswoman immediately walked over to her, and her voice was as sweet as honey as she said, "Welcome, sir. What kind of clothes are you looking for?" Ye Shuang was about to say something when a familiar female voice called from their outskirts, "Aunt Luo."
Chapter 6, Quick, Run. Xiao Su and Ye Shuang aren't married yet.
The voice belonged to a familiar face. Ye Shuang had an uncle, and this girl was the girlfriend of his uncle's son, the future daughter-in-law of the Luo family. Mother Ye had moved to the city after marrying Father Ye, so it was rare for her to meet family members. Therefore, if this greeting had taken place at any other time, Mother Ye would have been very happy. It was such a happy occasion to meet her nephew's girlfriend. She would have even wanted to take her home for lunch. However, this time, the situation was different. When Mother Ye and Ye Shuang heard that clear voice, their faces were covered in cold sweat. As they both turned around, a familiar-looking girl was walking towards them, her eyes shining, and her gaze was completely focused on Ye Shuang. "Quick, run." Mother Ye barely made sense to herself. She pushed Ye Shuang to the side, wanting her to go hide as quickly as possible. Her own daughter had suddenly become a man. If this news went beyond the boundaries of the immediate family, things could get very, very bad. If someone was loose-lipped or if someone wanted to hurt them. She shuddered just thinking about the possible consequences. There were black lines all over Ye Shuang's face. Run? Why would I do that? And even if I wanted to, where could I run? Moreover, the girl had seen her standing next to Mother Ye. Even though the girl called Mother Ye's name, her eyes had not left Ye Shuang as she walked towards her. If she really just ran away, then it would only make the situation even more suspicious. Mother Ye also seemed to realize that the solution was not usable. As her nephew's future wife got closer, Mother Ye looked around with sweat on her forehead. Her eyes shone as she grabbed a few sets of shirts and put them in Ye Shuang's arms. She then pushed her son and said, "Go ahead. Go try on those clothes. Ask the saleswoman to match the pants and jacket for you. Try them on slowly, one by one, make sure you stay in the fitting room for at least an hour." Ye Shuang was thus deposited in the hands of the sweet saleswoman. The latter was so pleasantly surprised that she almost fainted with happiness. It did not cross the saleswoman's mind that Ye Shuang would try on the clothes but not buy them. She probably thought that a handsome man would not do something so depraved. The saleswoman practically dragged Ye Shuang away, and she didn't delay, probably fearing that her competitor would rush in and steal the meat from her mouth. And so Ye Shuang managed to escape from Qianru, who had been stopped by Mother Ye. "This is such a happy coincidence, Qianru. But why are you shopping in Sanlin City? Are you here to work?" When she saw Ye Shuang being led safely into the dressing room out of the corner of her eye, Mother Ye sighed under her breath and focused on dealing with the opponent in front of her. "Why aren't you with Xiao Su? You two aren't getting any younger. When do you plan to get married?" Qianru was about 90% confirmed as the future wife of Ye Shuang's cousin. Since Mother Ye and Uncle Luo were brother and sister, their children knew each other quite well. If they met at work or outside, they would definitely go for a drink or something. Qianru might look young, but she was already a planner in a famous entertainment company. To put it simply, she was a star designer, kind of like the manager of a celebrity, but her relationship with her clients was not as close as the professional relationship between the manager and his celebrity. Qianru and Luo Su formed a couple when they were in college. Then they started working together. Perhaps women had an easier time in the reception and entertainment business because Qianru had made a name for himself in the industry in less than a year, but Luo Su was still practically an unknown. He was always entrusted with new talent without hope. Despite this, they shared a wonderful relationship. The only reason they weren't married, even though they were fast approaching 30, was an ego problem of Luo Su. He probably thought that losing to his future wife professionally was a shameful affair, and he forced himself to make a name for himself first before popping the question. Of course, the hectic nature of Qianru's work was another reason. However, they had been living as a married couple for years already. Both parents had seen and approved of this relationship. Honestly, it was just a matter of formality. Qianru's face was colored with disappointment when she saw Ye Shuang running into the locker room. However, the next second, she grabbed Mother Ye's arm and breathed excitedly. "Aunt Luo, Asup is still busy dealing with the new actors. By the way, who was that handsome man who was just with you? Do you think he will be interested in becoming a celebrity?" As you know, Su is always dealing with new D-class talent, which this handsome man is definitely not. He has the potential to be really great. Help me convince him to sign with Su. Don't worry, since he's part of the family, we certainly won't treat him badly. Qianru, even though she had met many A-list celebrities, still managed to have her breath taken away and her heart stopped for about a minute when she gave Ye Shuang her first look. This shows how damaging Ye Shuang's beauty is. The first emotion that came to Qianru's mind when she recovered was joy, because her husband was finally going to get his big break. The reason why Luo Su had not done something with his life was because he had not been able to show results. However, it wasn't easy to achieve this in the entertainment world. It required a lot of luck and talent. The company had given him new talent, but honestly, these blissful hopes would have a better life working in a normal job. If the celebrity wasn't famous, of course, the manager wouldn't have a good life either. However, this man was different. He had the potential to be huge. Qianru's face flushed with excitement. With her hand on her chest, she could only stop herself from rushing into the locker room to pull the man and force him into the business. I mean, to sign a valid entry-level contract. Noticing the fiery gleam in Qianru's eyes, Mother Ye felt like the pressure above her head was increasing. This person, will never enter the entertainment world. Oh Qianru was visibly disappointed. What do you mean? It will be such a waste if he doesn't become a celebrity. Even if he's just a vase, he has the potential to become an ancient Greek urn. Mother Ye broke out in a cold sweat and lied without batting an eyelid. The main reason is that his family is very serious. They won't let him become an actor. Or Qianru retorted, today's celebrities are not just actors anymore. They need to understand that a celebrity can have astronomical income and great public support. Ah! It's out. Her words all coalesced into a surprised cry. Mother Ye turned around sharply to see Ye Shuang coming out of the locker room. This was not a situation that Ye Shuang could control. She had been in the locker room for over 10 minutes already. If she had stayed longer, the saleswoman would probably think that she was inside doing something illegal. Besides, all the clothes that Mother Ye had taken in her haste would probably have looked better on Father Ye than on a young man. However, as the saying goes, as long as you are confident, you can wear any outfit. Of course, that was a lie. The only reason why the outfit looked reasonable on Ye Shuang was because the design itself was of such a high quality that the outfit didn't matter. The dark and conservative design was not at all young or current, but the dark gray fabric and reserved design that was buttoned up to the neck wrapped the handsome man in an air of chivalrous beauty, an old-school charm. Or Qianru felt her fingers tighten. She felt like knocking the man out and dragging him to the company to force him to sign a contract. No matter what method, she had to make this man an asset to the company. Ye Shuang felt the hairs on her back stand up as she was assaulted by Oh Qianru's gaze and the stares of all the other customers in the store. She sucked in a deep breath before stepping forward to greet her former girlfriend. Hey, hello. After an awkward greeting, Ye Shuang gave her mother many pleading looks, asking for help. Mother Ye swallowed a mouthful of saliva before saying, Qianru, let me introduce you. This is the cousin of my friend and colleague's son. What's your name? Or Qianru ignored these frivolous details and got straight to the point. My name is Ye Shuang. Ye Shuang replied as if by reflex. It was too late to regret it now. However, it was still correct. After all, the new identity also used this name. If someone realized the similarity, they might just be fooling around. Oh Qianru's CPU's processing power was all used up, capturing the handsome man, so it probably wouldn't occur to him to consider the veracity of the name. It's a wonderful name. But how come it sounds so familiar? Ye Shuang despaired. While Mother Ye was worried.